want to welcome you to our show today, the Sunnyside Community Voice. And today our show is going to be just a little bit different. We are coming from the Marcial Keys Activity Center over in Sunnyside, and today our show is going to be about Does Your Vote Count? This is a community town hall meeting. You're going to hear some various conversation concerning the cameras, the red light cameras. Today is going to be just a little bit different, so we want you to sit back and hopefully we're going to give you some information concerning our vote, because this show is about is your vote or does your vote count? And we want to thank you for joining us.
We need a lively crowd here tonight. Thank God for you being here. And the purpose we're here is very important to all of us. First, it was about the cameras. But now it's not about the cameras now. It's about the decision that the mayor made above what the voters had already done. We're here because if it's done one time, what's to say, or who's to say that it won't happen again? People work too hard and stand in long lines in order to get the opportunity to vote. As pastors, I'm pretty sure they can attest to the fact that it's difficult to get people out to vote. And when people do vote, they need to know that their vote means something. Apparently, this time the vote didn't mean anything. It's one thing to say that you made a mistake. There should be something done to rectify that mistake. Anytime you go against the voter's will, something is wrong with that picture. We as the Ministers Against Crime, we are the voice for the people that are unable to speak for themselves. I know sometimes people say, well, I'm not going to vote because my vote won't count. As you can see, this time it really did count. We don't want this to happen this game. This time it's the cameras. What will it be the next time? So we have to stand up and be men and women on these type issues, not be afraid to speak out or fear retaliation against it. Now can I say it? I'm going to pass it on. I want to say this before I turn it over to Ron Jackson. We, the Houston Ministers Against Crime, we work diligently with our chief. We love our chief. We support our chief. But I was astounded, insulted, when our chief said that he's going to expand the cameras, adding insult to injury. I couldn't believe I heard that. It had to resonate on my mind. Here we are fighting one situation. Our chief comes out and says, well, not only that, we're going to expand the cameras. Well, it's not about the cameras now. It's about your vote. You standing in long lines, patiently waiting to vote, and then seemingly your vote does not count. We cannot let this happen again. Ron Jackson.
Thank you all for coming out this evening. I want to thank the Houston Ministers Against Crime for hosting this timely event. I want to thank you, the citizens, the concerned citizens and community leaders for coming out tonight. You all know how we got here, but as we heard radio ads running on the radio, the question to be posed tonight is, what will the people do? And what we want to do tonight with this panel is discuss some of the truth and the facts of how we got here and what will we do. Of course, you know how we got here on November 2nd. Over 181,000 people voted against Proposition 3 to get the red light cameras taken down. That was over 53% of the voters who voted and made their voices heard. A couple of months later, we had the ruling by one federal judge who overruled the will of the people. So the Kubashers began to get calls that people were upset and they were angry, and I think rightly so, because we're dealing with our city government, and this is a government for the people, by the people, and the people have spoken, so our will has basically been violated. And we have a history of voting, especially in this community. You know, it took women years to be able to vote. African Americans years. In fact, it wasn't up until 1965 from the Civil Rights Voting Act that we had basically the right to vote. Well, if you go back another some 100 years prior to that, there was another episode that took place where the right to vote was taken away from us. So that's why we're so diligent and persistent, and why this means so much to us. But on the panel tonight, over to my right, we have Hope Adams. She's a representative for Reverend Robert Jefferson of Cullen Missionary Baptist Church, the project coordinator for Ministers Against Crime. And before I go any further, I want to thank President F.N. Williams, who is the president of Houston Ministers Against Crime, who saw the wrong that was put against the citizens of Houston and thought that it was a crime, and that's why the Houston Ministers Against Crime stepped up to the plate as watchmen of the community. Next to Hope is the founder of Citizens Against Red Light Cameras, Attorney Paul Kubash. Next to him is Randall Callaghan, a civil rights attorney. And of course, right to my right, you all know her as one of the fiercest fighters for the people on City Council, Councilmember Yolanda Jones. And to my left, this is Michael Kubash, kind of hyperactive sometimes. He's the petition coordinator for Houston Ministers Against Crime. So what we're going to do is basically right now is open up this session. Is that mic on? Yeah. And the first question, what we're going to do is going to have question and answers. I'll ask the panelists some questions before we open it up to you all to ask the community to ask questions, and then we'll see where do we go from here. The first question I'm going to pose to Attorney Randall Callaghan. And what I want to ask, and I'm going to ask this to both of you all since both of you all are attorneys. What do you, in your opinion, what civil rights violation has taken place with these cameras being turned on?
The Voting Rights Act of 1965, but in the year before that, during the Civil Rights Movement, became the Civil Rights Act of 1964, helped to be passed by that gentleman that you see over there, Martin Luther King. And what that did is that gave you a federal and a state cause of action for violations of your civil rights, and that also means constitutional rights. And in this case, where the people have sought a petition to their government, that's in the First Amendment to the Constitution, and that is the people have a right to petition their government for redress of grievances. And in that vein, the state of Texas set up a system where we could go and amend the charter, which we went ahead and did by this petition, and it was taken from us. So at least the right to seek redress for our grievances has been violated, as well as the Fifth Amendment right to due process, and probably a Fourth Amendment right to an unreasonable seizure of your funds. If they give you a ticket in violation of the law, they have seized your funds, and that's a Fourth Amendment violation. So 3 different rights are being violated here from the Bill of Rights from the Constitution.
The city council member, your opinion.
I like to stand, especially since all these men are around me. I need to stand up for the women. But I actually agree with what Randall said. By the way, Randall and I used to both sit on the board of the ACLU, so we've known each other for a long time. So I'm not going to rehash what he said, but what I will say is I have on my lawyer hat, I'm still trying to figure out why we're in federal court in the first place, because in my respectful legal opinion, there is no federal question, right? I'm searching. I mean, I went to U of H Law School. I'm very well educated. And it seems like forum shopping to me. In other words, you go where you think you have some friends and they're going to give you a favorable ruling. And this is a case that I would like to see whoever's suing to take to the Supreme Court, because I think it's certainly problematic when you can take something, again, in my respectful opinion, I do not see a federal question. In cases, for those of you who are not lawyers, you can only file in federal court if there's a federal question. I mean, period, the end. And I haven't seen that argument made. I don't know why it hasn't been made. If I was a lawyer on the case, I would make it. But I think there are other issues, and something else I'll say just really quickly. I haven't a clue why people don't just ask us to put it on the agenda. It didn't take a vote to get the red light cameras of the people. It doesn't need a vote of the people to get rid of it. Right. We could put it on city council next week. And we could vote for it. So I'm just telling you, that's the most simple thing to do. I heard people saying that they're gonna put it on like in a couple of whatever. Dude, we could put it on this Friday and we could vote on it next Wednesday if there was will. So, for what that's worth.
I don't know how many of you all were listening to KCOH radio on yesterday or KWWJ and heard the exchange between Councilmember Bradford and Assistant City Attorney Holman, and also the exchange between Jolanda and the City Attorney Dave Feldman. It was very interesting, and she brought that exact point up and got him to clarify that it can come up over in council for a vote, but we're going to deal with that a little later in this meeting. When I was researching invalid elections, this is what Judge Hughes said, that the November 2nd election was an invalid election. And in researching, invalid elections are common, but they're most common in third world countries, in Iran, Afghanistan, or Haiti, or Egypt. They are very rare in the United States. And those that have been called invalid, they were invalid because of fraud, illegal signatures, but nothing such as this sort, and it's popping up, which I think that we're on the map for, unfortunately, we're on the map, but we as citizens should do our best to take care of this situation. But next I want to give the microphone over to Paul Kubash to briefly connect the dots together and let the audience here knows, because there's a lot of misnomers out of here. You know, there's various different news stories going on, something that is said from city council, something that is said from the opposing force, but you're the founder of Citizens Against Red Light Cameras. Start kind of from the beginning and connect the dots for us.
Thank you. Probably we need to start with why the judge tossed the election. The judge said that we failed to bring the referendum within, he called it a referendum, and he said we needed to bring it within 30 days after city had passed the original ordinance. Now the original ordinance was in 2004, and what we did not go under city code. We were not trying to pass a referendum. We were going under the state law, and the state law says that citizens, once they get 20,000 signatures, they can submit it and they can change the charter. There's no 30-day rule on it or anything like that. And so that's what we did. And the telling sign is, as bad as the mayor and the city attorney liked the cameras, they were in complete agreement with us on the day that it was voted on to put it on the ballot. And we did bring it under state law, and this federal judge, he completely ignored the conflict between the state law and the charter amendment. He didn't even discuss it. He said that what we did was not a charter amendment, it was a referendum. He's wrong, and then he just threw out the election. And for those of you who do not know, the general counsel for American Traffic Solutions is George Hittner. One of the federal judges in the Southern District is David Hittner. So there's a connection there. The Southern District should have never had this case. And to let you know, Baytown also voted out the cameras. Now in Baytown, that city attorney, he did not file suit. Here, the city of Houston filed suit, put it in federal court. There, they did not file suit. They did not file suit. They waited on ATS to file suit against the city, and currently it's still there. The cameras are off, and they're in a state court, and I bet you, at the end of the day, that state district judge is going to uphold